All right, this is Scott Joseph, live at NADA J&L Marketing booth 3266C. We have a special guest here. Welcome, Gene.
Hey, nice to be here.
Right.
Thank you.
Gene Girdley.
Yeah.
I'm going to let him give a real quick 30-second, who are you? Why should people be listening to us right now?
Yeah, okay, so who I am. I am a retail automotive professional. I've been in the business full-time in the automotive industry since 1995. I've held pretty much every position in retail automotive. So I've been on the sales side, I've been a sales consultant, finance manager, sales manager, BDC manager. On the fixed ops side, I've been a service manager. I actually started my career while I was in college fixing cars. Ran my own business out of my bright yellow Pinto station wagon called Gene's Auto Dock. So I was probably one of the first mobile service guys out there.
That's innovative.
Yeah. So, I was the last 10 years with Mitsubishi Motors.
Right.
I was primarily focused on new dealer training. Hopefully I'm continuing that relationship with them as an independent. But I now have a brand new company called DelRae Learning and Development.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so there I am.
And so we're going to talk today about culture, right? How do we differentiate our store? Everyone wants to be different,
right,
especially in a world trying to marginalize and commoditize us, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the ways you can do it is with the culture of your store, your people, your processes, how that works.
Absolutely.
You're an expert in that, so I know a little bit about your background there.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that, what dealerships can do to grow or build a better culture, right, and really make a difference that way.
Okay, so first of all, you're probably familiar with the term ESI equals CSI. So employee satisfaction equals customer satisfaction, okay? And we really need to do a better job of attracting people, new blood into the industry, because the people that have been around forever, they're tired, they don't really want to embrace the new technologies and things like that. So attracting new people, but why should they come? Why should they work the long hours? Why should they grind and grind? And really the answer has to be because we're going to make the experience great for them. Because if you have satisfied employees, you're going to have satisfied customers. So that's the first thing, is you need to focus on your employees. Yeah. And my background from a retail standpoint is I had the great privilege of working for the Campbell Automotive Group.
Okay.
And John Campbell was one of the first one-price dealers in the country.
Yep.
He had Ford, Nissan, Mazda, and then his Santa Ana Saturn store was the first one to open or sign the Saturn agreement way back when. And I went to work originally for one of his Saturn stores, and then I also worked for one of his Saab stores. But he was really focused on the customer experience. And if you know anything about Saturn, the background with Saturn is that everything that they did back then is what everybody wants today.
Right.
All right, commitment to customer enthusiasm, commitment to excel, teamwork, trust and respect for the individual employee, and continuous improvement. Those are things that everybody wants today. So how does that really flesh out?
Why do you think that is? Why today? What do you think causes a dealer to say, hey, you know what, we need to start focusing heavier on here?
Yeah. I think the customers are demanding it.
Good point.
They weren't demanding it quite as much back then. It was innovative, it was exciting, it was new. In fact, I like to say that people bought the experience, they didn't buy the car.
Yeah, and that brings up a great thing. We have a client, big client, services a lot of dealers. It's a Fortune 5 company, all right? They had this challenge of trying to get this information to the dealer so the dealer could properly communicate their product to the end consumer.
Right.
And they had no less than 5 to 7 steps in between on how to train and workshops and trainers and all this stuff, but it never solved the problem.
Right.
And so in the end, what ended up working and worked effectively is they started running ads on the product to the end consumer, and the end consumer started asking the dealer questions, and the dealer was like, we got to have answers to these. We need to know what we're doing.
And so the customer drives the process,
correct,
right?
Yes.
Exactly right. And so if you go back to the days of Saturn, there was a group called the Group of 99. Some people know the story, but some people don't, is they brought in 100 people and they said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to create a whole new brand. It's not going to copy any other GM products. It's going to go after the imports. But we need to do some research and we want you guys to volunteer. So one guy got up and left. That's how come it's called the Group of 99, right? But they did 2 million man hours of research finding out what the customer wanted. Not only the buyer of the cars, but the dealer customer.
Right.
And so it was the whole thing of focusing on what do you want different in the experience, how do you want the dealerships to be set up. In fact, they were one of the first ones that put sales and service side by side and didn't stick the service departments in the back. So, and now everybody's doing that, right?
Yeah.
So to your point, it really was the customer feedback that said, you know, the number one thing that we hate about shopping for cars, because we actually like to shop for cars, but it's the haggling.
Right.
It's the back and forth. It's
the tension
grind.
at the time of decision-making time.
Yeah, it's all of that stuff that we hate. So that's how the one price thing came about for Saturn. It wasn't really about profitability or anything like that. It was just about making it easy. So at first, before Saturn ever, they went 10 years without ever having an incentive on their cars. Their price came in way below everybody else because they had already built that incentive in there.
Right.
But then they said, let's not go through the grind.
It's funny you bring up doing the side-by-side. So we did a recent podcast episode with Todd Blue down in Houston, Indigo Auto Group.
Yes.
His Porsche store, now the service is in the back, but first off, you could eat off the floor. I mean, it looks like just white marble. I know it's not marble, but it looks like white marble. But it's entire glass. It's almost like eating at a fine restaurant where when you're in the lounge sits between the sales, the showroom, and the service department, and it's all glass.
Yeah.
You see all the way through, so it requires
transparency.
It to be, yes, and his office sits in the middle, overlooking glass on both sides because he wanted to portray the same exact thing, that no one thing is better than the other. They're all equal here, right? Sales, service, and wanted all that working. It was a beautiful store.
So I have a question for you, and that I may be able to tag on to, but with what you're doing, and you go in and you present to dealer groups or to a dealer, what is the thing that's holding them back from making the change? Typically, what is it? What is that
change
thing?
In what area?
In marketing, in advertising strategy, or in any kind of a culture change? What is the thing that's holding them back to?
It's a guess, because obviously I don't know, and everyone's going to be different.
Yeah.
I think dealers they're tired of huge ROI promises, and then they do it, they buy all in, and it never materializes. Or they have all these tools, right? That then once they get them, require a lot more time and effort than they thought, and then the sales, in the end, they still selling their 200 cars a month, and it never really went up. The needle never moved.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest thing. I can remember my first NADA when I first bought my store. Came in, had always done the J&L side on the vendor side, but the first year I bought a store, I thought, now I get to walk this hall as the dealer, right? So I'm listening to all these things, and I never did it as a vendor. I just focused here. But paying attention to all these things, and I'm hearing all these grabs, seeing this tool, and I'm seeing that tool. And I bought into everything. I was like, we could use this, we can use that. And in the end, you just take risk. And I think they've done that enough that they're probably a lot of times hearing things that are too good to be true in their back of their mind, and it's sitting there and thinking.
Do you think fear plays a part in it?
I think nobody wants to make a mistake.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're hesitant.
Well, and you got margins that are they're not great.
Getting thinner and thinner and thinner.
Everyone's raced to the bottom, and it's a tie. They're all there, and so I think that's the biggest thing.
So I have a story I'd like to tell you.
I don't know. Do you agree with that?
I do. I do, and I see that fact of trust and fear kind of being together. Can we trust you and can we respect you?
Correct.
So the trust is built up front, but then whether you follow through or not with what you promised, that's where the respect is established, and that's where long-term relationships are built.
Well, and if you on the marketing side, if you're looking at it, the majority of the budget's digital, and so key things that I think a lot of dealers ask themselves on digital marketing would be, one, does this firm or agency, do they know my market? All right, and because they're tired of. And most dealerships have tried at least 3 or 4 digital agencies, and they probably haven't seen the needle move or the support be that much better from one to the other. And so I think the key thing is they're hesitant to move and try other things because they're like, I've already done this 3 or 4 times, and they're all the same. So in the back of their mind, they're all the same. Do they really know my market? Dealers are tired of being the ones that have to come up with the idea to try and improve the results on digital marketing. It really should be the agency proposing.
I agree with that.
Here's what should happen. Can I get good support? You know, they're getting frustrated at being just sold something and then they kind of a set it and forget it mentality. So I think that goes. I think there's a lot of that going on.
And I agree. And I think part of that is why they're hesitant to look at changing the culture either.
Yep.
You know that
they probably bought into a lot of things that, and in the end they were like,
right.
Seems to be the same.
Or just the experience, right?
Yep.
They've been doing this a long time.
That's right.
So because of that, they felt like, well, I've tried different things and it really hasn't worked.
Yep.
Also, when we get back to the employees, and to your point about that story, you know, the end user, and then coming back and asking questions to the dealer, if I'm going to change my culture, I need everybody in the dealership to embrace it, right?
Yep.
I can't just have, hey, let's just do this change, and everybody gets excited, oh, it sounds like fun. Everybody has to embrace the culture.
Yep.
So I used to train sales managers who were coming on board with Saturn who had never had a Saturn experience before.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to treat customers. So I would tell them...
And let's face it, back then, the dealers have come a long way in this area.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're more ready to do it now.
That's correct.
Yeah, but back then, I would tell them the story, hey, a customer came in, she saw a yellow coupe that we had, she was riding with her daughter and said, oh, I got to look at that car. Came in, didn't have her trade in. So we did a blind trade appraisal, and back in the day, what we were doing back then is what they're doing now, which is we're giving you the price of the trade, and that's a cash price whether you buy a car from us or not, right?
Yeah.
So we gave her a price, but we told her, look, you don't have the car here, and Toyota has 5 different trim lines, so if it's one or the other, it could change significantly, and just be aware of that. So she said, great, she took delivery, brought the car back in the next day, and she had guessed low 2 trim lines. So her car was actually worth $1,200 more. And then I posed this question to the sales managers. What do you do with that extra gross? Okay? Well over half said, hey, pocket it, baby, right? Pocket it, right? But here's what happened with us. Our sales manager, Dennis, she was in finance, and he walks in and he says, hey, I got to tell you, remember we talked to you about your trade? And she goes, oh, I knew it, right? He goes, no, you don't understand. We owe you $1,200. Do you want us to rewrite the deal, or do you want us to just give you a check? Now, there are probably people listening right now who would go, that is insane. I would never do that. But I want you to think about it like this. Seed for the soil, right? Because here's what she did. She went home and called up local newspaper, right? It would have been all over Facebook today.
Today it
would have been a viral thing, right? A viral tweet or something.
Which is even more of a reason to do things.
Exactly right. More of a reason. Thank you. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But she called the local newspaper, and they wrote an article. That following weekend, people were coming into our dealerships with the article in their hand. I want to do business with you guys. And I think we ended up selling 15 to 20 cars on that action. So that's the kind of culture change that, and the mindset that we need to have across the board in everything we do.
That's right. Yeah. Customer focused.
Yeah.
So, is there anything more you want to add on when it comes to culture? Wait a minute. Oh boy. Come on over. Get in there.
Get over here, Sandy.
We're live. We're live.
Yeah, we're live. Yeah, we're live. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Good.
So here's a culture guy right here.
The solutionist.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The solutionist. So we got 2 culture geniuses here, experts.
Yeah.
Let's get a quick. We were about to close out, but let's get a few minutes in here to you guys together.
No doubt. Absolutely.
So we were just talking a little bit about back in the day of Saturn and how everybody's kind of looking for that now. That customers are looking for that experience that they had now. And I told a little story about how we actually, a customer in a blind trade came in and we gave her back $1,200 because she had undervalued her trade. And then she went to the local newspaper, which today would be on Facebook, right?
100%.
And we had people coming in with the newspaper. So we were talking about how that mindset, that culture mindset, is really the thing that everybody needs to embrace across the board, top to bottom. And you really hit on that in the training that you do.
100%.
So maybe you could tell a little bit about how that ties into what you're doing.
I think what you said, it speaks to the core of how we operate, right? So what we talk about is let's stop pitching, let's stop selling, all right? Nobody really feels comfortable doing the pitching, and nobody feels comfortable being pitched, right? They just don't feel like it's a natural, authentic experience. And so what we ask selling professionals to do is to set out helping people make the best decision possible about their next vehicle purchase. And so everything that we do comes from that place. It's a whole different experience. It feels like it's collaborative versus some type of a negotiation competition.
Right.
Right. So
right.
I mean, that's something that we focus on, you know, a lot.
Right. So I have a question about that, because I go back into my days of retail, and we had some people who, whenever we'd have an aged unit and they'd put a $1,500 bogey on it, they would try to push every customer at that.
Of course.
And my attitude was, I don't want to do that, because I could end up scaring them away if that's not the car that meets their needs.
Yeah.
If it happened to fall into my pocket, great, but if it didn't, then that was a concern for me, because I didn't want to not meet their needs, as you say. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
No question about it.
Okay.
It's in terms of intent. Like, what is your intent? Is your intent to actually help somebody make the best decision possible about their next vehicle purchase, or is jam something down their throat because you've got a $1,500 minimum commission? Now, I get we're in a business where compensation is a piece of the puzzle, but I think we want the behavior to be the savior, right? We don't want people doing something that would end up turning somebody off long term from our operation. And your point with respect to, you know, correcting the value on somebody's trade that they weren't aware of, came back to you, I'm sure, 10 or 100-fold.
I think we did 15 deals on that.
Yeah.
Imagine in today's world if they had Facebook, Twitter, and all that.
Oh
other
my
stuff.
God.
But you know what's beautiful about that?
That
is
would go viral.
It would have gone viral.
That would go
Yeah.
viral.
not that was a mistake on the dealer. That was just the customer didn't know what trim level, right?
Right.
But it's always great when if dealers struggle with how do I improve my reputation, how do I change the perception that consumers have of car dealers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mistakes are your opportunity.
Absolutely.
Mistakes are your
true.
opportunity.
Yeah.
And so we always are worried about how the customer's going to react to a mistake. To me, I always want to find the mistake, and in this case it wasn't a mistake, but you found the situation before the customer did.
Right.
And to me, that's what I want. I want to find mistakes
Great point.
that before the customer calls me up and says, I've got this situation, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Because when that happens, you're always going to, if you're running a business well, you're going to make it very fast and easy and come to a quick resolution or solution to make somebody happy.
Right.
But in the back of the customer's mind, they might think they did this only because I bitched or I complained or whatever, right?
Yeah.
When you find it and you are proactive on the solution, there's not a better feeling because it's unexpected.
That's right.
And that's what makes it great.
Exactly. Surprising delight is what I like to call
Correct.
it. Yeah.
No question. You used the perfect word. It's proactive.
Yeah.
Proactive.
You're not reacting to something defensively that you've got to correct. You actually went ahead, identified the situation, called the customer, solved the problem, and moved on. And people will appreciate that.
Yeah.
By the way, the ones that don't, you know what we call those? Just like a few angry people. There's like 8 or 9 of them running around the world. You're just never going to satisfy them. They move around a lot, so you bump into them once in a while. But the truth is that there's really only 8 or 9 of them out there.
Yeah.
You know, so.
All right. When I bring them together, I don't have to do anything. I can just sit back and just, it's great.
Well,
All right, it makes it easy.
To put a rose in between 2 thorns.
Yeah,
So.
that's exactly right. The
Gene,
good-looking guy.
thank you. Wait, real quick. These two, while we're live, tell them how to reach you guys. Tell them how to reach you guys.
Okay,
All right.
so Gene, Gene, at DelRaeLearning.com is my email address. That would be the best way to hit me up.
All right.
You can visit me on LinkedIn, Gene Girdley. My website, DelRaeLearning.com.
Yeah, perfect. And I'm simple. I'll meet you wherever you are. Any of the social media platforms, whether it's LinkedIn, IG, Facebook, Twitter. It's Sandy, Sandy, Cerami, CERAMI, and it's Sandy at sandycerami.com. 201-753-1234. Give me a shout. Love to hear from you.
Right on.
See you guys soon.
All right,
Thanks.
guys.
All right.